Hey MTG fans, I'm back with another video. Decided it was a little bit overdue to make a BFZ rundown because all of the Battle for Zendikar cards have been spoiled. So I picked out the most noteworthy ones that I think are going to really affect Standard and gonna run through them at top speed. Well, logically we should start with the Eldrazi, the star of the set. So first, Desolation Twin, a big old 10/10 for 10 is buy one get one free special. You get another 10/10 when you pay 10. So sounds like a bad advertisement, but it's a great creature because, I mean, what are you going to do? Bioblight it? I don't think so. That means they have two giant Titan-sized Eldrazi's to kill, and that's a big problem. Next we've got the other buy one get one free card. Yes, you might have noticed I photoshopped some of these cards a little bit. It's the Sanctum of Ugin. It's kind of nice because it taps for one colorless, but then whenever you cast a colorless spell with converted mana cost 7 or greater, you may sacrifice it, and then if you do, search your library for a colorless creature card. So once you've already cast about a medium to large sized Eldrazi, unfortunately it doesn't include 6 cost, then you can go get whatever giant Eldrazi you want, and obviously you have the mana for it. But this card is then gone, so you might not be able to summon it. Not a very good card. Next up we've got Breaker of Armies. What he does is every time he attacks, everybody who can block him has to, with 10/8 on there for just 8. I mean, that's pretty good offense, so I definitely like this card. I think he's one of those cards where if you have 2 or 3 blockers and they don't add up to 8, he's just going to eliminate all your blockers. It might as well be an asymmetric board wipe, so definitely a fantastic card. Next we've got Oblivion Sower. Whenever you cast him, target opponent exiles the top 4 cards of his or her library. Then you may put any number of land cards that player owns from exile at all, not just from those 4, onto the battlefield under your control. Now that is the key to this card. If you used Ingestion, or pretty much any other method, to put a whole bunch of cards into exile in your opponent's side, you can simply take all of their lands and put them into play. I mean, that is absolutely insane. Not only would this trigger Landfall, but if you're playing purely Eldrazi, this will help you summon 10 cost. Easily. So, definitely a perfect game, or mid to late game, you know, because of the 6 cost, and the mid to late game because you want them to have an exile pile. Plus it's a 5/8, so it's not going anywhere anytime soon. So if you had to, you could cast it just in case of emergency. Probability states that you will approximately get 1 to 2 lands from their exile pile just from the 4 that he is bringing out himself. Not bad. Next is the big guy, Ulamog the Ceaseless Hunger. Now they said they were going to do something different with the artwork. I don't really see it. He pretty much looks the same as I remember. I remember he always liked almonds, but obviously this guy is just stupid. He's a 10/10 for 10, so if he swings twice, you're dead. And then he's indestructible, so he's not going anywhere anytime soon, so that eliminates most of the black cards out there. And then, as soon as he swings, not even if he hits, just swings, you nuke 20 cards off your library, and they're held in exile. Hey, remember that last card? Ooh, bad combo. So if he comes out, you better have a way to get rid of him, and with Indestructible, he's going to be a problem. Definitely the #1 Eldrazi in the set by a long shot. Next up, it's Mr. Barrage Titan. I like him because the artwork matches exactly what he does. He picks up smaller Eldrazi and throws them at the enemy. Kind of reminds me of the Fling card from back in the day. All you have to do is pay 3, which is a little steep, sacrifice another colorless creature, which is probably going to be a Scion, and he deals the power equal to the sacrificed creature's power to the target creature player. Now that's the problem. You either get rid of a Scion that you needed to bring out a bigger Eldrazi, and then it only does 1 damage because it's a 1/1, or you get rid of a mid-size Eldrazi. Now there are a lot of 2 to 3 power Eldrazi that tend to just do one thing when they come into the field, or they have an early game effect that you don't really need later, so this is a pretty good card. It's a shame they made it red to cast, but I don't know, it's an okay card. If it fits in your deck, might as well use it. Next, we've got From Beyond, the #1 most important spell in the entire Eldrazi arsenal, because I knew before they even announced it, there has to be a repetitive Scion dropper, and this is the only one I've seen. So every single upkeep, you get a 1/1 Eldrazi Scion, and the most stupidly ridiculous thing is that it's already green, plus you pay 2, sack it, and then you may go get any Eldrazi card, like for example a game winner like Ulamog. This card is probably going to be just stupidly expensive and popular if people are playing pure Eldrazi. Next we've got Cider of Stagnation. I can't even say the name. Whenever land enters the battlefield under an opponent's control, so that's why it's not Landfall, that player exiles the top 2 cards of his or her library, and you yourself draw 2 cards. So not only does it stack the exile pile, not only does it discourage Landfall, it basically demolishes Landfall, but it's draw. Now, every time you draw 2 cards, you've got about a 66% chance of one of them being a land, and you want to get out land to get out 10-cost Eldrazi. So this is an unbelievably important card. Next we've got the Endless one. Ooh, creepy. Look at how endless he is. I like to call him Chimeric Mass, but better. Now you may recall that they reprinted Chimeric Mass in Modern Masters 2015 as a rare, and this is better because it already is a creature. So, besides any sort of counter manipulation, hardened scales, Solidarity of Heroes, I don't remember if that'll be legal. This is just unbelievable because however much mana you have, that's how big he is. So you pull him early game, mid game, late game, he's whatever size you need him to be. So unless somebody's holding some sort of cancel spell, he's coming out and he's going to hit them. So absolutely perfect. The perfect card to have in any Eldrazi. And we go to the polar opposite, a complete disgrace to Magic. I thought this card was a joke. It's a Void Winnower, it's just stupid. It's just like sheer probability whether your spell happens to be even or odd. There's no, it's immune to big spells, it's immune to little spells, it's immune to a color. It's just random. It's just absolutely stupid. The funny thing is, he can also get past most of the blockers in the game. So if you cast him, you're probably going to win with him. On principle, I'm not putting him in my deck. Next we move on to green, and boy did we move on to green. Undergrowth Champion. He only cost 3. He's a 2/2, which is a slight setback, so he's not the hardest card in the world to kill, but just don't block with him. The unbelievable part about him is if damage would be dealt to him while it has a +1/+1 counter on it, prevent that damage and remove a +1/+1 counter from him. So I take it back. Do block with him. Then he's got Landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on him. So he is going to block forever. I mean, theoretically, he could block, let's say, a 10/10 Eldrazi that doesn't have a special effect, just 8 times in a row, easily. So I absolutely love this card. And next we've got Scythe Leopard. Look at those beautiful scythes. Yeah, I know they're sickles. Don't start hating in the comments. I just like him because he's a 1/1 for 1 with Landfall. That's it. I mean, you don't even need to give him trample. He is just going to be a beast. He's almost as good as Endless One. But, I mean, he does get bigger over time instead of just being as big as when you cast him. So he's right up there with them, and he's only an uncommon. So I think this is a fantastic card to put in any green deck. Unfortunately, that's it for green. Let's move over to blue. Part the Water Veil. Holy crap. We've got to go back. Take an extra turn after this one. Exile Part the Water Veil. Can you believe that? I think the last Take an Extra Turn card that was a sorcery cost 14 or so. You could delve it, but your deck's only so big and so is your graveyard. This is unbelievable. I don't even care about Awaken, but this is one of the rare Awaken 6s, as if you have 9 mana. But yeah, Take an Extra Turn. The only problem is a lot of blue effects will tap a creature until like the next turn or the next upkeep, and so maybe you could stack them, maybe you couldn't. Some stuff ends during your turn, and it's not the greatest. But if you could strike them twice or kill off their creatures twice, hey, why not? It's definitely going to my blue deck. Next, we've got an unbelievable card, Scry X, where X is the highest converted mana cost amongst permanents you control. Thank God they made this double blue so that it hopefully doesn't go in Eldrazi decks. Then you draw 3 cards. So let's say you use Scry 5, then draw 3. That's like chaining all the Treasure Cruise and Tygam Scheming, and I don't even remember what those combos were, but all the blue arrangement cards all in one card. It does cost 5, but you're pretty much fixing your next, 10 turns, theoretically, so definitely a good card. And that's it for blue. Next we move on to red. Dragon Master Outcast does not have flash despite the trench coat and the perfectly placed fig leaf. This card is unreal. It costs 1. It's a 1/1. I hope you don't get him killed, because at the beginning of every single upkeep, if you control 6 or more lands, which you probably should, You get a 5/5 red dragon creature token with flying. So flyers, big weakness of the Eldrazi. They can't typically block them, and they really don't get granted reach that easily. So this card is just unbelievable for a red deck, and red is really powerful. This is only the tip of the red iceberg. Next we've got the legend Boiling Earth. Oh yes, it only costs 2, and Boiling Earth deals 1 damage to each creature your opponents control. Finally, for once, it doesn't do damage to your own creatures, which seems to have been a theme lately with red. It does have Awaken. Who cares? It costs too much. I hate Awaken. It's pointless. I really just want to wipe out Scions. That's all this card is meant to do. So they got 6/1/1 Scions. You're pretty sure they're going to summon, I don't know, some massive Ulamog next turn, nuke all their little Scions, and that's it. I guess in response they could sack for mana, but what are they going to do off turn? Not summon something. So definitely a very important card. Next we've got one of my favorites. I know a lot of the analysts on YouTube are talking crap about this one, but I think it's fantastic. It by itself is a game winner. Or I should say, not by itself. You have to cast a spell on him, but whenever you cast an instant or a sorcery, either one, that targets him, copy the spell and target every other creature. Let's just pretend you could put Hunter's Prowess on it. You're going to draw your whole deck and win the game. I mean, well, assuming you don't draw your whole deck. But let's say it was a spell where every time the creature hits, blah happens. Well, it triggered once per creature. I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous. Defiant Strike, you could hit him with that. Assuming that's still legal. You would draw 1 card per creature. I mean, the spell literally goes off multiple times. Now, let's say you hit him with a +6/+6, that Delve card, Become Immense. Hello, that's a lot of damage. So, this guy could just come out in the next turn and win the game. So, that's a pretty good card. Anytime you could drop out a creature that might win the game on the next swing. I mean, most of the Eldrazi's will take 2 swings. So, definitely a killer card. Next, we're moving on to my personal favorite, Black. It's a bird, it's a plane, it's a Kiss member. No, it's actually a flying Sanguine Bond. Whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life, and at 4 or 5, I don't think you're going to be losing this creature anytime soon. That just coincidentally happens to be 1 larger than a Languish. So, I'm sure they did that on purpose. Also, it's a vampire. A lot of good vampires in this set, but this is the one I picked as the absolute, just unbelievable, undisputed king of vampires. So, the only problem is it costs 7. That is rough. I believe Sanguine Bond was only 5 to cast. So, I don't know. I mean, if you really think you could finish off your opponent with a giant life gain bomb, unfortunately there really aren't any. And certainly not in black. Even white you've got maybe resupply, but that ain't cheap either. So, a lot of drawbacks with this card, but if you can get it out, if you just sit there with Sword of the Animist and some black flyers and just get out 1 land per turn, okay, 7th turn, here he comes. So, definitely great card. Who's up next? It's Drana. Holy crap, another vampire. This one only costs 3. He's a 2/3, so very simple to get out, and you would want to get him out early. A flyer, a first striker, he's hard to stop by himself, but wait, there's more. Whenever he deals combat damage to a player, put a +1/+1 counter on each attacking creature you control. Can you say make an all-flyers deck? It could even be an all-flying vampires deck for all I care. It's going to crush everyone and everything. So I think flyers are going to end up being just the biggest weakness to Eldrazi. I mean, Thopter decks might even come back, because they just fly over their heads and you could just single block. None of them have trample. So this card is just unbelievable, because if you have all flyers, you have all first strikers, maybe you found a way to make them unblockable, they all get +1/+1 as long as they were attacking. I wish he dropped counters onto people who weren't attacking, but I think that would be a little OP. He's kind of OP already. Next we've got Kalastria Healer. Look at that awesome artwork. I love that. It shows exactly what he does. I think it looks great. He's got Rally. Whenever him or another ally enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Fantastic effect, especially when you chain it with the other effects that do that. Classic black life drain is really coming back. I think there's 4 or 5 cards that alone do it in the new set. So a lot of +1/-1, or I should say -1/+1 going on. Next we've got Ruinous Path, or as I like to call it, the other hero's downfall. Now this was downgraded to sorcery speed, but it was upgraded to Awaken. The Awaken cost is 7, so not absolutely outrageous compared to other cards, but I just think it's fantastic to kill Planeswalkers, because if you looked at the artwork for Oath of the Gatesworn, There's at least, I think, 5 Planeswalkers. I think they've actually confirmed that already. And a lot of Planeswalkers in Origins, and a couple Planeswalkers, I believe 2 in the current set, BFZ. So, a lot of Planeswalkers out there to kill. So, you need a Planeswalker killer, and there aren't many exile cards left that'll do it. So, this is about it. And finally, for black, we've got Nixilis. Now that he got his spark back, he looks a little different. People have been saying, commenting on his new artwork, saying there's just something different. They can't really pin it down. I think it's his head. But let's go to the abilities. You draw a card and you lose 1 life. Sure, pretty good deal. A lot of life gain, a lot of life exchange. -1/+1, like I said. So if you're doing vampires, he fits in perfectly. -3, destroy target creature. I'm starting to think he is Liliana with a mask on. -8, target opponent gets an emblem with whenever a player draws a card, you lose 2 life. Now, may I remind you that on both turns, somebody draws a card. Not a lot of card draw in black. I mean, you've got your Sign in Blood. I believe they reprinted Read the Bones, so actually, I'm not sure that one actually draws cards. Might have to check on that. It might place cards in your hand, which is not considered drawing, so watch out for that. But you will kill them very quickly. There is no way to remove an emblem, and you could technically get multiple emblems. Not very likely with this guy, especially since he costs 5 and he's coming out late anyway. But I just think he's a perfect assistant. He will take at least a swing or 2 off of your back. And if they're dumb enough to not attack him, then hey, -8. They will lose the game eventually. And you could just sit there and stall with life gain. Next, we're moving on to the powerhouse of the new set, White. And the powerhouse of White is Planar Outburst. Destroy all non-land creatures. Now, people are saying that this is literally a Wrath of God, but it isn't. Word for word, it is quite different. You probably already caught the difference is non-land creatures. So if you used Awaken or some sort of Planeswalker ability or some other method to turn land into creatures, or the man lands and turn themselves into creatures, they're staying. So it's semi-asymmetric, which I absolutely despise symmetrical board wipes. It's just stupid. I mean, unless you're absolutely positive you can come back first before the other opponent, there's no need to play it. I mean, it's like an emergency board wipe because you're going to lose, but if you're losing, your deck probably is going to lose regardless, whether you sort of reset the game or not. I mean, it's not exactly Karn. So, not one of my favorites, but if you had 2 or 3 awoken lands or land creatures out there, you're pretty good to go. I mean, you're going to just slam them, even on the same combat turn, because they have no blockers. So definitely a good card, and I don't usually like board wipes. Next, we've got my other absolute disgrace, in my opinion, the Felidar Sovereign. Oh, look, an alternate win condition. People love those. Maybe they should have brought back poison counters, too. Those were really popular. It's just anything that says you win the game, it just shouldn't be printed. It's just stupid. And the only consolence we have is that it's really hard to gain life. All the good life gain was in M15, and if it wasn't, it's in Journey to Nyx. So they're gone. He himself does have lifelink. It's not very safe to swing with him, and he does cost 6, so it's not the easiest deck to build, but honestly, I might build one just because. I think black-white lifelink with flyers and making creatures bigger, ally triggers, couple landfall triggers, you could get to 40 life really, really, really quickly as long as you can keep swinging without them removing your creatures. So it's possible. I really hope this doesn't become a big tournament winner card because I don't want to see it. Thank God just a normal kill spell can kill it. Next, we've got Encircling Fissure. I love this card because it's a pure white fog, not a green fog. Prevent all combat damage that would be dealt this turn by creatures target opponent controls. So that is fantastic. All you have to do is let them all through when they think they're going to win, so they're swinging a little bit harder than they safely should, and then counter swing on your turn. Plus, this only has Awaken 2 for 5. That is not bad. So if you were to Awaken a land, you're going to hit them even harder the next turn. I think this is a fantastic version of Fog, probably the best I've ever seen. And finally, Mr. Gideon, ally of Zendikar. Look at him looking sharp in that new artwork. I really like what they did with his style. People said that he looked too similar to the last Gideon. I don't see it. I think he looks a little different in this version. But yeah, he turns into a 5/5 and prevent all damage. He's practically the same Gideon, okay, besides fashion choices. But his 0 is that he brings out a 2/2 White Knight ally creature. That means he's the best Gideon ever printed because he can protect himself. When he's not protecting himself, he can become a 5/5 basically indestructible plus ally creature. Somehow he's still a planeswalker. I'm not sure how that's relevant since you can only kill planeswalkers with a sorcery and on your own turn, but I'm sure that will come up. -4, now you might notice he comes out with 4 loyalty. You get an emblem with creatures you control get +1/+1. Now, this just in from our researchers. You can trigger that multiple times. You can stack emblems. They aren't considered legendary because who cares? They aren't even considered on the field. They're in something called the control zone. That's a different discussion. But if you were to bring him out, +1 him, -4 him, then +1 him 3 more times, you could make all your creatures +2/+2 until the end of the game. Very, very, very effective, and I doubt he's going anywhere. So with his own blocker, this is just going to be a beast in white. I just can't even think of a way to get rid of him except for, flying vampires. Hey, take a guess which deck I'm going to build. Did I say finally? I meant this is finally. The last white card that I thought was absolutely noteworthy, worth commenting on, is Quarantine Field. Yes, I did Photoshop that. No, it does not look like that. I'm sure somebody's going to ask. Quarantine Field enters the battlefield with X isolation counters on it. I'm not even going to read it. It's stupid. I'm going to explain it my way. Pay 2, then for every 2 you pay past that, exile something. And it could be any non-land permanent an opponent controls, so you're not getting rid of your own creature as some kind of weird emergency, or get rid of your own demonic pact that you shouldn't have cast in the first place. But as soon as it leaves the battlefield, then everything comes back. So slight problem, but enchantment destruction, not very common. I don't think there's actually any that I saw in the new set, so hey, why not? So if you had 6, you could just nuke 2 Eldrazi with it. I mean, that is fantastic. I wouldn't use it to take out Scions, but definitely a good card. Time to try not to throw up in my mouth as I say it, but here comes the hybrids. Oh yeah, I'm holding it together. I'm holding it together. You can tell, I like mono. I like mono because it's a single-purpose steamroller where they either stop it or they die. Definitely a big control fan, so, I play pure blue, pure black, pure white. Occasionally I'll splash each other, but I just hate having mana color problems. Luckily, as somebody's already typing in the comment section right now, there's a buttload of 2-color lands out that are legal. I think there's 3,000 of them at last count, so probably not a problem playing this card. Now, all you have to do is search your library for a creature, instant, or sorcery card with a converted mana cost less than or equal to the number of colors of mana that you spent on it. Sunburst, yay! This is pretty much the only good Sunburst card in the entire set, so if you're going to play it, play this one. All you have to do is exile the card of your choice. So let's say if you spent 5 colors of mana, then it's a 5 cost, which is pretty significant considering it can be any creature, instant, or sorcery. That's pretty generous. You exile, then you may cast it without paying its cost. So you pour all your mana into this, and then free cast something of the equivalent mana without having to match colors. I mean, that's pretty fantastic considering you get to go get it out of your deck. Next we've got, Kiora. You'll never guess what movie I think she's from. She looks awfully familiar. Oh, and she brings out octopuses. Octopi. She's pretty good. People are worried that she might miss. I think 4 loyalty for 4, hey, why not? But yeah, +1 on tap up to 1 target creature and up to 1 target land. I mean, that's powerful. She could sort of protect herself because she could theoretically raise a blocker that attacked last turn. Then reveal the top 4 cards of your library. You may put a creature card and or a land card. So and or, either or both if you wanted, from among them into your hand, put the rest in your graveyard. So there's a little bit of a delve assistance there. Not that her colors match a lot of good delve cards, but then -8. This requires some explaining. You get an emblem with, whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may have it fight target creature. End of emblem description. Then put 3/8/8 blue octopi or octopus tokens onto the battlefield. You'll never guess what they get to do. they get to fight target creatures. All 3 of them, because they entered the battlefield and you have to resolve it in chronological order, even though it's all the same attack. So, the octopi are probably going to wipe out a couple of their creatures, 3 of them, and then they don't get to swing that turn unless you can grant them haste, but who cares? You drop in one more, let's say they drop in a creature on their turn, you drop in a creature, force fight, that's gone, hit them for 24 damage. I mean, she is just going to be beastly if you can get her to 8. It is 4 turns to get her to -8, unfortunately, and you're probably going to have to self-destruct her, but at least she can sort of protect herself with the +1. You don't have to go -2 to protect her necessarily, but it is an emergency protection if you needed to bring out a creature. So, not bad at all. And finally, we've got Omnath, Locus of Rage. Look at that rage face. He's raging. Now, that mana cost might be frightening. I think that's actually what he's mad about, is his mana cost. Not only is it 7, but it's double green, double red. That's painful. But, are you ready for this? Landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, put a 5/5 red and green elemental creature token onto the battlefield. Or as I like to call it, play Animist Awakening and win the game. Whenever Omnath, Locus of Rage, or any other elemental you control dies, he himself personally deals 3 damage to target creature or player. God help him if you give him lifelink. So, unavoidable damage, it's not even considered combat damage. I mean, there are no downsides to this card other than the fact that it costs 7. He's a 5/5, just out of the range of certain -4/-4 spells, which I think there's 3 of them now, actually. This card is just outrageous. These are really popular colors right now. You could just drop him into the green-red deck that people are playing right now in the place of a Hydra, and the game is over. It's not that hard to trigger Landfall 5 or 6 times on a turn with just green alone, so I would definitely put him in a deck. So what type of equipment did they give us? Well, you're looking at it. The Hedron Blade only costs 1 to get out. Equipped creature gets +1/+1, so you're basic equipable. But whenever the equipped creature becomes blocked by 1 or more colorless creatures, it gains Death Touch until end of turn. Fantastic. So it is a single-handed Eldrazi Slayer. I love it. If they block with one of their Scions, okay, you've got a problem. That's a 1/1, and they've probably got a whole bunch of them. You only set them back 1 turn max, maybe less than that. So, not great. Probably a little bit of a sideboard card, but it's just not that effective. Plus, it costs 2 to equip, so not my favorite. As far as Colorless goes, we do have a non-equipment artifact. When it comes to the war with the Eldrazi, peace was never an option, so we're going to align those Hedrons and nuke the planet. When aligned Hedron network enters the battlefield, exile all creatures with power 5 or greater until it leaves the battlefield. Now, if you thought enchantment destruction was rare with Quarantine Field, try artifact destruction. Not a whole lot of that going around, especially in Eldrazi decks. So, definitely a great card. I mean, this is, if you're getting run by Eldrazi, or if you just want to get rid of that one Eldrazi they just summoned, this will do it. So, I love this card. I mean, I don't know if I would mainboard it. I might put it in my sideboard due to cost, and the fact that it really doesn't exile anything other than Giant Eldrazi. It's a so-so card, but at least it'll stop them in their tracks, and it exiles them, so you cannot bring them back from the graveyard. That's actually pretty rare in this set, so not a bad effect. And now the moment you've all been waiting for, the #1 most significant, most powerful, most unbelievably, stupidly desired card in the new set. It's Sword of the Animist. That's how powerful it is. It's not even in the set, it's in the last set, but I included it anyway because this is the landfall trigger. There is no better landfall trigger than this, or I should say trigger causer, because it's colorless. It can go in any deck. I don't care what color landfall you're playing, this is going in your deck, and you're going to have 4 of them. That's how important it is. Yes, it's legendary, but if you don't pull it, you're not going to trigger landfall. If you pull it before you get a landfall creature, who cares? Now you've got unlimited mana, and you're removing lands from your deck, which means you're going to be drawing creatures with landfall. So no matter when you play this card, no matter what color you're playing, you could even not be playing a landfall deck. You're still going to want 10 lands out. I mean, who doesn't want that? For free. This is just the most powerful card in existence right now for the new sets. It costs 2. Equipped creature gets +1/+1, huge bonus there because you're going to be swinging with it a lot. And then whenever it attacks, all it has to do is attack, doesn't have to hit the person. You may search your library for a basic land card, put it on the battlefield tapped. Okay, tapped. One slight downfall. Then shuffle your library, and it only costs 2 to equip. What happens if they finally do blow up your giant flying vampire with Sword of the Animist on? Attach it to another creature. I mean, this alone might make artifact destruction a really big thing in sideboards or even main boards, because if you can get out one land every single turn in addition to the land that you're already dropping from your hand, oh my gosh. Plus, you could legitimately play with a 30-30 deck, 30 land, 30 creatures, and just really hope that you get the Sword of the Animist out. Oh wait, don't hope that you get it out. Go use Relic Seeker to go get it out. I mean, you can go get it from your library. This is just the most unbelievably horrifically powerful card ever. If you are right now opening a second tab in your browser to go to eBay and buy more of it, sorry you're too late, the price already skyrocketed. Okay, by skyrocketed, I think it went up about 30%. But this card, if you don't own 16 of it, just to hoard them and have them for every deck you're going to build, or I guess for resale if you're one of those people, you need to get some. You need to trade for them. Just buy them now, it's only going to get worse, because this card is going to be the #1 card people want in a deck for the next year at least, until it personally cycles out by itself. So, you know another deck this might be fun in? Eldrazi! I mean, you could cast a 10 cost on turn 5 or 6 with this card out if you strapped it to a cheap creature. Speaking of cheap creatures, hello, a 1/1 Scion, so you just got your Scion killed by swinging with it and the sword on it. But it's kind of like sacrificing it, except for the fact that you get to keep the land, and you could use it anytime you want. And then you're thinning out your deck, which means you're more likely to naturally draw a giant Titan. So this is, I can't even think of a deck that you wouldn't want this card in. You could put it in a mill deck, because why would a mill deck not need more mana? I mean, and then more spells, more triggers, more Sphinx's tutelage. So this just takes land right out of your deck, lets you just get down to the nitty-gritty cards in the deck, gives you a just insane amount of mana, causes landfall. It's the greatest card in the set, and it's not even in the set. So definitely pick up as many Swords of the Animist that you can get your hands on.